Hey, anybody who's listened to the podcast or has been listening to the podcast, I want to say first and foremost, we really appreciate you. Everybody that's listened, super appreciative. Do have a slightly large ask, and the ask is, if there was even one thing that you heard, one word uttered, one sentence that struck you, could you please go on to Spotify, Apple Podcast, whatever platform you're listening on, and give us a 5-star review. And maybe on top of the 5-star review, just like a little, hey, this was great. Hey, love what he had to say. Hey. Just anything 5 stars and with a little something on the side really helps us. And I'm talking to everybody, like you, please, if you can, give us a 5-star review. Now, there's a slight clarification on the review process. Typically, review sites allow you to give 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stars. In our case, we would prefer the 5-star reviews. If you were thinking about a 4-star review, let's just decide between the two of us, like talk to your neighbor whether you like them or not, or 3-star review, I don't know. Maybe take out that anger in the gym. If it's a 2 or 1-star review, I don't know. Maybe go on to our website on the info portion and write us a nasty email. But the 5 stars, we really appreciate, and we appreciate everybody that does listen, regardless of their rating. But the 5 stars are great. If you're watching this on YouTube or any video platform, you'll see today I'm wearing a hard hat. That's just so everyone knows I'm the real deal because I have a hard hat. You'll see how shiny it is. It's pretty nice. If anyone had any questions about, hey, is this guy really in construction? What has he done? Does he know what he's talking about? Hopefully that is now fully resolved. I'll bring back the hard hat on future episodes just to reinforce the point. But for today, I would assume I have the hard hat on. That question's resolved. I'm the real deal. So we can move on from there. Today I was thinking about, where are my notes here? Oh, this came up recently, and it came up in an internal meeting in our company, and it got me thinking. And I'll give you a little backstory. I'll leave out names of companies, but we were sitting in a meeting around a conference table, me and all of our PMs and my partner and our office manager and yada. And there was kind of this little snarky comment by my partner of, hey, yeah, I talked to Daniel, the plumber, and he basically told me that you weren't ready for him yesterday at your job because he was missing some specs. So he ended up coming over and doing a pot filler for us at this other job. And my initial reaction was kind of like, what the fuck? My PM that manages that job was sitting to my left. So I immediately looked at Grant and I said, hey, I know that you had a 5-hour meeting with the clients just 2 days ago, and the plumber was there for that meeting, and the meeting was specifically about walking through plumbing valve specs, heights, details, etc., and all of the plumbing details so we can get this place insulated and closed up. How could we have missed something? And of course his response was, we didn't miss anything. No, he knows everything. That's bullshit. So I turned to my partner. Hey, I know for a fact we had this long meeting because I left Grant, my PM, at the meeting for 3 hours longer than I stayed there. I was there for 2 hours and I tapped out. Done. Grant, finished this meeting. They resolved everything. And then my partner, he said that, this, that, and long story short, when we get down to the bottom of it, me and my partner talked through it at the table with everyone involved, and the PM that's managing that project that my partner was discussing where they had to put in the pot filler got in on the conversation. What happened was the plumber who was supposed to be at our job that day got busy, didn't go to our job in the morning, and because we didn't stop in to check on him and just assumed he was there, which, yes, red flag right there. We are overpaid babysitters in the construction industry. So that, and many of us know that. Some of us should figure that out. he didn't show up at the job in the morning. And because he didn't show up in the job in the morning, it's probably because it's him and his partner. It's a 2-man show, and they got called to a service call, I'm sure. I might never get the real story. But then my partner on his project was getting ready to wrap up their rough trades, and he realized that they hadn't roughed in the pot filler over the stove, and they needed that done so they could insulate. So what did they do? Hit the PM that works for us, who was under my partner's umbrella for that project, called the plumber as an emergency. Oh my God, I need you to get over here. I need you to put in this pot filler. And what does the plumber do? The plumber takes that as, well, I better drop everything I'm doing and get over there and put in this pot filler. By the way, I'm not going to call Ken and Grant and let them know that that's what I'm doing. I'm just going to assume, because Ken is partners with John, that it must be a given that Ken knows what's going on. And I'm going to go over there and do this pot filler and not show up at Ken's job. And then the next day, Ken, sitting in a meeting with my partner, thinking that we got some rough plumbing done. And then I asked Grant, and Grant says, no, he never showed up because I checked at the end of the day and nothing got done. And this whole mess. So we go deeper into the conversation. What the crux of the problem is, 2 things. My partner's thoughts on the whole deal was, excuse me, and I respect this, although I disagree, were we need to keep a better internal schedule for our subs workflow, so we know when our subs are going to be on specific jobs, specifically relating to your jobs and my jobs. And the reason I say your jobs and my jobs is because I'm the new construction guy and the new home person, and my partner's specifically remodels. So my jobs would be the new construction, his jobs would be the remodels. And, my response to that was, well, I don't agree with that philosophy. I believe if we're working with quality subs, the subcontractor should be able to keep a schedule enough to the point where when I ask them, hey, can you be at my job on Tuesday? I don't have to then follow that question up with, but do you have anything else going on that might be in conflict? Because my assumption is if they did have something else going on that might be in conflict, they're going to fucking tell me. They're not going to say, sure, I'll be at your job Tuesday. And in the back of their head, they're like, well, shit, if 3 things fall through and I don't have to show up. No. And it's not my responsibility to spend hours with my office staff and my partner and my PMs to have a crystal ball and try to manage our sub schedules. Our subs need to be on their shit. However, I started thinking deeper about this. And I'd like to try to get back to how could I have solved this problem internally, within myself, and have a better process within my company. And the conclusion I came to, and this is a very broad conclusion, is that we really need to understand our subcontractors, who we're dealing with, what their structure is, what their organization is, how organized are they, how motivated are they? These are all real factors in construction. And then take that into account when we're scheduling jobs. Because, as I've touched on in the past, not all companies are built equally, or not all companies want to be equal. We're just like humans. Not everyone's Thor, not everyone's 6'8", 320 pounds of pure muscle, or not everyone could run a 4.440. Not everyone can, insert whatever here. Everyone's different. So I sit back and I close my eyes and I think about this and I say, okay, well, maybe in reality, I should have come to the conclusion that being that I'm in new construction and I love working with this plumber because he's a good dude, but he is a 2-man show. Maybe I'm giving him a little more to chew than he can bite off. Maybe me expecting, my thought process is if I tell you we're going to be ready for you on Tuesday the 7th and I need you there, a big thing for me is to tell my subs, I want you at the project every day. I don't want you to come for 2 hours and then leave and then show up for an hour at the end of the day and then leave again. No, I want you there. I want you to stay there. I say for a full day. A full day to some subs means 5 or 6 hours. If that's their full day, I want you there all that time. When you commit that you're going to do my rough-in or my project or whatever it may be, sorry, something in my throat, and I have no damn water. But if you commit that you're going to be doing my project, I expect that you're going to block out that time and you're going to do my project start to finish and you're not going to leave. For two reasons. One, I want to count on the schedule you give me, and I don't want to have to build in a huge buffer, because those huge buffers equal a ton of time that the project takes me longer than it should. Two, because oftentimes I have homeowners that linger around my projects, and by linger I mean they like to pop, oh, it's 11:15 and I'm going to pop in and see what's going on. And if I don't see full activity, like we're building a New York skyscraper, I'm going to immediately call Ken and be like, hey, not much activity today. Just wanted to note quickly, not much activity today. What's my answer to that? I don't, there's never a good answer to that, except just transparently being like, it's construction, shit happens, and it's never always 24/7, gonna be Disneyland over there. Like, that's just, there's gonna be, it's ebb and flow. That's an aside. So, I expect him to be there. What I should have realized is, how is a guy that's a two-man company, and they do service calls and some new construction stuff and remodels, but primarily they do remodels and service calls. How is that person going to block a week of their schedule to rough in a 5,000 square foot house? And we had the infrastructure already done. By rough in, I'm just talking about setting plumbing valves, setting shower drains, etc. How are they going to block that much time for me uninterrupted without killing their other business? Because their other business is guys like my partner that run a remodeling division and oftentimes need them last minute. Oh shit, it's 3:00 and I just realized the insulators are coming tomorrow and I need this done by 5. So Daniel, please get over here. And that's what Daniel does. He's a service guy. So he goes and he handles that problem. Or if someone calls and says my toilet flooded and it's water spewing out all over my lower floor from the second story, I need this solved right away. Because he's a two-man show and has no one else to call, Daniel's not going to say, oh, well, that's a terrible problem and I know you're a great past client, but I'm at Ken's job that's going to take a week. So why don't you just let that shit water get all over your lower floor for a week? No, that doesn't work. They have two people. And what I didn't realize is Daniel can't commit to me as much as he wants to. And even if he's going to tell me he can commit to me, it's not realistic. And it's my job as the owner of the company to understand my subs. And that's a very specific scenario. So, but it's not just the Daniels of the world. I also need to understand on the flip side, when the Craigs of the world have a huge HVAC company and are running 10 trucks that are service and new construction and commercial, or the Nicks of the world have a huge electrical company and they're doing work in Costco's and they're doing work in hospitals, but they're also doing charging stations and they're also serving residential clients. Like that big bloated company, or even one of my best buddies who has a concrete company, has 97 employees or more. I don't know what he's at now. Less, more, around that number. However, these companies get bigger and bloated, and if they're my trusted subcontractors, I have to understand that a big bloated company, I'm not going to be able to call them like the Daniels and say, I need this done last minute. Hey, Nick, can you get over to this house? It's 3:00 and by 6:00 I need this done for tomorrow's inspection and we forgot to do it, or it didn't get done, or you missed it, or something's wrong. Well, no, Nick has 3 channels of people I need to get through for scheduling. Sure, I can call Nick the owner, he's my buddy, but Nick has grown his organization to the point where it's too big for him to be that nimble. He doesn't just have a person sitting in his office on standby to go hang out on emergency calls like the fucking Ghostbusters. Like, that's just not real. So, in that case, it's the opposite of a Daniel. Daniel has the flexibility of my partner John to call me. He's going to be out there in an hour and it's going to screw my job over. However, Nick doesn't, because Nick's too big. So my schedule needs to be tight with Nick, and Nick's going to stick to that tight schedule, but I don't have much flexibility. So there's like cost benefit to each of these. Not just on an organizational side. I need to understand that, because if I'm scheduling everyone across the board for my project like they are this amalgamation and they've just become this like super contractor that I've taken all the best parts of everyone's organization and everyone's workflow and everyone's habits, and I think I'm going to schedule everyone equally because they're all going to work like that, I'm going to crash and burn quickly, Nuance. Take your subcontractors out for a beer. Take your subcontractors out for coffee. Figure out their organization. Spend a little time to get to know who they are, what their mindset is, what their organizational structure is like. That's going to help you schedule, and that's going to help you be successful so much more on projects than just trying to schedule everyone according to some like baseline understanding of this is my subcontractor base and they're all the same. Now, what I just outlined, I'm really going off ranting here, but this is like really near and dear to my heart. This happened yesterday. Also, from an organizational standpoint, you can see how those two types of organizations need to be treated differently. Now, let's talk also about the Daves of the world. If Dave's a door provider who provides interior and exterior doors, but Dave is 68 years old or 63 or 52, whatever the hell Dave is, and Dave's been in the business for 30 years, and oh, by the way, Dave recently sold the commercial building that housed his interior door company, and that he produced his interior doors out of for the last 25 years to a big conglomerate for $11 million, and he paid $900K for the building 25 years ago, yet he's still in the interior door business. Newsflash, Dave doesn't really give as many fucks as most people. Dave cashed out, but Dave's still in the business. So when you have an issue on a job with Dave, although he's been great for you for the past 10 years, 15 years, and now you need to push Dave a little bit and put the screws to him and say, hey, Dave, this happened on this pocket door, and look, good thing I have this hard hat on because I'm dropping dimes right now on real project shit that happens. Hey, Dave, on this pocket door, when we open the pocket door, it's a shaker style door with 2 rails. The way you lined it up, when we shut the pocket door to the jam, it actually has a 6 3/4 inch reveal on one side and a 6 7/8 reveal on the other side. Maybe it wasn't that dramatic. I forget the exact measurements, but it was like a quarter inch off. And this just explains probably not a quarter, but anyway, the reveal on one side was different than the other side, very, very slightly. Oh, but this is a $20 million house we're building in Atherton. So guess what people see? They see a quarter inch. I don't know if they actually see it or they just want to see it, so they seek it. They seek it. I don't know what it is, but they see it. So when you call Dave and say, Dave, that door you made has a quarter inch larger reveal on the left-hand side, and there's nothing we could have done because you pre-made the pocket, and you should have known because by the time we jam it out, like this isn't our first rodeo, it needs to be fixed. And Dave responds to your email 2 days later, and his response is kind of bullshit and like evasive. So you call Dave, how are we going to resolve this? I need to get this fixed because my client's freaking out because she thinks a quarter inch reveal on one side of the door is too much extra to have. So in turn, it throws off her wall paneling that ties into the door profile. So we can't even do the wall paneling. So the work we had scheduled for the next week to do wall paneling on this whole wall that ties into this pocket door can't be done because of this extra quarter inch reveal that she thinks throws off the whole pattern of the wall paneling. And hey, that's your client's prerogative. Work in the custom luxury construction industry, like that's the shit you're gonna deal with. Be happy about it. You're building big ass homes. Everything's fucked now, Dave. What are we gonna do? Evasive. You should have done this. Not my fault. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so in a normal scenario, if it's not Dave who just cashed out on a bag from selling his commercial building after the last 25 years, typically we can put the screws to that person who's not going to be a team player and come to the board and say, this is how I'm going to fix it, because that's what I expect from our subcontractors. This is how I'm going to fix it. No. So, okay, we have the past relationship with Dave, but Dave's being a little evasive. Dave doesn't want to fix it. So what am I going to do? I'm going to try to put the screws to him. I'm going to say, Dave, look, we owe you money on XYZ. You're either going to fix this or I'm going to have to fix it. I'm not coming out of pocket to fix this because I don't feel like it's my issue. So if I come out of pocket to fix it, I'm going to back charge you on one of these other projects. Well, this is Dave's response. Dave's going to say, well, if I get back charged or I don't get paid on the doors that I'm providing for these other projects, I can't deliver those doors. I'm a materials business. Just very dry. Huh, nice, Dave. So in this scenario, I have to either get it fixed myself, pay for it, somehow convince Dave, pull leverage on our past relationship to fix it, but Dave's not really interested in it because Dave's sitting on a bag of money. Or I'm screwed and the client's pissed. And I got to do this in rapid order. So what I'm likely going to do is I'm going to end up eating that money and just getting it fixed because that's the nature of the beast. And hope to God I have some contingency built in somewhere to cover that cost. Although that gets harder on a cost or just a specific cost plus contract unless you have a contingency line item for just stuff like this. However, even then you might have a client saying, well, why am I paying in your contingency for something that got messed up because the door, blah, blah, blah. So in that case, I didn't know Dave. I should have known Dave better. I should have known that Dave was sitting on a pile of money, and Dave didn't really give two shits to fix an $1,100 problem, nor did me trying to put the screws to him saying I'm going to backcharge him phase him at all, where it could have phased somebody else. Dave's like, go ahead. Oh, $1,100, let me laugh at you. I gave you a door, you're going to live with it. Fuck Dave. I like Dave. Dave's actually a good guy. But that's a scenario where you don't know Dave's mindset. If I didn't know Dave's mindset, I would continue to think that I had leverage to push Dave to no end. And all it would do is screw up other projects because Dave is not coming off of his position that if you don't pay me for these doors, I'm not going to bring them. Dave's going to say, hey, Ken, I know you're trying to put the screws to me to fix this door on this project, but on that project, F you, pay me, then you get your doors. This leverage thing doesn't work. So that's Dave. Now on the flip side, if I was to go someone else's mindset, maybe someone new in the business, they're young and coming up, and they are a framer, and they've bid $22,000 to bid this like one room addition on this house. And in doing so, something comes up where the plan shows that the soffits of this building are supposed to be flat back to the wall. They're not raked and they're not following the rafter tails up into the roof. And for some reason, this young gun that you got that gave you a great price, he was $10,000 and less, but this was a budget-friendly project. You needed to bring him on. And you say, okay, great, you sign off. And he missed on the plans that those eaves get soffitted back flush. And comes down to framing's done. He's applied the fascia. He's sheared off the structure. It's all done, ready for inspection. You say, hey, what about those soffits that we didn't do? We got to get those done. We're going to roll into siding here shortly. And they're like, what? James is like, what? The soffits? I didn't bid soffits. I'm like, well, I gave you a set of plans. I said, can you give me a price based on the plans? I know you didn't give me an itemized bid because you're not really organized, but I figured you knew how to read the plans. You read the plans. The plans show a soffit. Oh, dude, I didn't have a soffit on there. Like, James, you gave me a price to do the framing per the plans. I then in turn took your price to my budget conscious client and gave them the price that you gave me to do the framing. If you're sitting here telling me you don't have the eaves soffitted in your budget number, I can't go back to the client and say the number I gave them is going to increase because you didn't include that. So I need you to do it. Well, what I didn't realize is James is broke. James is new in the business. James is scrapping every job and is spending every dime from every job, wherever the hell he's spending it. Maybe it's just life, shit's expensive. But regardless, he doesn't have enough time, bandwidth, or money to do these eaves soffits for free. And no matter how much I push him, he's not willing to give me a freebie like that because that's going to really hurt him and really hurt his bottom line. So if I didn't understand that about James, I'm going to be the one to have to pay for that because I can't go back to the client. I can't go get it out of him for free. I mean, I could be a dick and really put the screws to him and say, you bid this per plan. You're going to do this. And if you don't do it, I'm going to blah, 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 blah. Number one, not that guy. Number two, James's prices are good and he does quality work and I want him around for the future. So if I understood James going in, which I do, I know that when James gives me a price for the framing of $22,000 for this addition, he's not that thorough and maybe he doesn't read the plans that well because I know James. And I know James is always wanting to get paid 7 seconds after he sends me an invoice, which is probably an indicator that dude needs the money quick. So I don't have that leverage. So what do I need to do? I need to make sure that when James gives me a price for 22 before I pass on to the client, I'm going to add a buffer, like a contingency. Even if it's a cost plus and I'm passing it through, this is what I'm going to do to the, if it's fixed price, it's easy. James is 22, I'm going to charge the client 35 and I'm going to cover my ass. I might make $5,000 or I might have to pay all that extra because James missed shit. But if it's cost plus, it's harder when you're saying, I'm going to charge you exactly what my subs are charging me plus my markup. Well, if James is 22 and I go to the client and say it's going to be 30, in a cost plus scenario, I'm showing bids to the client. So they're going to see James's bid is 22. I'm either going to do one of two things. I'm going to go to James initially and I'm going to say, I know you're 22, but you're giving me a bid for 30. If it's 22, that's great. However, I think there's probably going to be things that come up that are going to drive up this price, and I want to make sure we're covered. I will not go back to the client for extra money because something's missed that was on the plans. And we might not see it now. It might pop its head later, but we need that coverage. That's a scenario that gets kind of dicey because it's like, well, what if it's 26 and I gave the client a price for 30, and then like, do I just charge 30? Do I go back to the client and say, hey, it actually turned out to be 26, so we saved you $4,000, but my initial number was $4,000 higher only because I just wanted to cover ass because James is a shit show? Or do I, put in the 22,000, have a contingency, and either in my bottom line or in each line item, where I just explained to the client, like, look, I always put in a 10%, 15% contingency because stuff comes up, stuff changes. I don't want to have to come to you with every single little change and tell you it's extra on top of your contract price. I'd rather come to you with a change and say, hey, this was extra, but it's covered by contingency because I already foresaw that this might happen. And in that case, because I knew James and because I put a contingency, I alleviated a potential headache with my client and with like billing and all that. So, I mean, there's 4 scenarios where wildly different mentalities, wildly different organizational structures amongst subs, and how if you don't understand that, it could really bite you in the ass, and you have to understand that. And you have to really have, I know you want to have your go-tos, and I do too. I have my go-tos, and I want to give them 90% of the work. But it's nice to have a stable of, you have the 2-man shows, you have the big companies, you have the Jameses of the world. You need all these people. And all these people need to know that you have all these people because it's all different. James the framer is different than SR Freeman the framer, who's just a huge organization who's going to bang it out 100% perfect the first time, probably be 40% higher in cost or more. But that's 2 wildly different companies. So all said, summarizing, know your subcontractors. Know their companies, know them personally, know their habits, and build that into your project planning.